स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। So last time we had started our discussion on what, according to Swami Vivekananda, the term religion signifies. We use the term freely, but we may not know its real significance. We had discussed some points. So we will just do a quick recapitulation. Like Swami Vivekananda gives the example of a huge locomotive running over the tracks and a worm about to be crushed by it, but just in time it moves out of harm's way. So which is greater, that little worm or that huge locomotive? So that little worm is greater because in it there is freedom, there is intelligence. In the dead is bound, there is no freedom possible because there is no intelligence. And this freedom that distinguishes us from mere dead matter is what we all are striving for. And this effort to attain freedom underlies all forms of worship, whether we know it or not. Even the most primitive forms of worship, like the worship of ghosts, demons, serpent worship, worship of tribal gods, etc., in the ancient times, those also had this one aim in view. And because we don't realize this, that even not only religion, but actually this idea, this striving for freedom is behind all our activities. So since we don't realize this, we take up various ideals one by one, but we are satisfied with none of them. So we keep on making newer ideals and think that we will gain satisfaction. Because we don't realize that it is actually freedom that we all are struggling for. To be bound by any law is irksome to us, irritating to us. We want to be free from all bondage and free from all laws. So this is the meaning behind our whole life. If you want to understand life, we have to understand this, that life is nothing but a human being's ceaseless endeavor to become free. Otherwise, life becomes meaningless, absolutely meaningless. And this freedom cannot be had in nature because the whole of nature, from the sun to the atoms, is under law. And man, as apparently seen, man, which is a combination of body and mind, is also under law. So although we are inhabiting a body which is completely bound, but there is an inner voice which keeps on telling us that there must be a way out of this bondage. And there is a way out. There is a being who is not bound by nature. He is free and the master of nature. And this embodiment of freedom is whom we call God. We cannot deny God because we cannot move or live without this idea of freedom which God represents. So this world is a world of dualities. Bondage, freedom, light, shadow, good, evil, all these must exist as long as the world exists. But the very fact of bondage also shows that freedom is hidden there. The very fact of good shows evil, the very fact of evil shows good. So, if we feel bondage, there must be a way to become free. And we had also discussed that this feeling of bondage is not the same in all individuals. The more we evolve, the more this feeling grows at different levels. Like the caveman basically felt only physical bondage. Then, when man rises on the intellectual plane, he wants to know more because he feels mental bondage. But man, when he evolves to the highest stage, then even physical or mental freedom is not enough for him. He aspires for spiritual freedom. That is going beyond nature, going beyond law, going beyond suffering for ever and ever. And Swami Vivekananda makes this pertinent observation that there cannot be any life or any impulse unless freedom be behind it. Life indicates the search for freedom. So freedom breathes in the throb of the universe. It is always pulsating in our heart. This search for freedom. And this is what religion is actually all about. So then Swami Vivekananda says what we will discuss today, that how can we make this search for freedom fruitful? How can we be truly religious? So we can be religious only when we strive to gain this freedom. So how is this freedom gained? Swamiji says that this freedom is gained when we face the truth, face the reality, not by running from the truth or running from the reality. So Swamiji gives this example that once when he was in Varanasi, he was chased by a horde of monkeys. And being afraid, he started running to save himself. The more he ran, the more the monkeys followed him. Then one person told Swamiji that stand still and face them. So then when Swamiji turned around and faced the monkeys, they all shrank back. They did not do him any harm. So Swami Vivekananda learned a great lesson from this, and he said that similarly, the hardships of life fall back when we don't flee from them. Next, he says, it follows from this that if we are ever to gain freedom, it must be by conquering nature, never by running away. He says we have to fight fear and troubles and ignorance if we expect them to flee before us. And if we run away from evil and terror and misery, they will follow us. Like the monkeys whom Swami Vivekananda faced. So Swami Vivekananda says here, we have to face misery. Now, what is the meaning of facing misery? Is it inviting misery? That always be miserable, always be sad, always weep, never laugh? Is that what is the meaning of facing misery? That is not the meaning. The meaning here can be that face the reality, Swamiji says. Reality is, this world is full of sorrow and suffering. Unfortunately, we don't realize this fact, and even when we realize this to some extent, we try to deny this fact. We try to deny that there is any sorrow and suffering in the world. We think that I can somehow be happy. Somehow I can escape sorrows. So people, nothing is more surprising that we have the example of every human being in the world who is following this beaten track. What is the beaten track? We all know: going to school, going to universities, getting a job, earning some money, enjoying some ice creams and chocolates and other things, and marrying, having some children, in some hope of getting happiness. So, and it all ends with what? It all ends with disease, old age, and death. We are seeing this right before our eyes every day. Every day we are faced with this. Some person or the other whom we know is facing disease, is facing old age. Some of them pass away. Still, nothing can be more surprising that seeing all this, we still think that we are very clever, we will escape. We will somehow escape. If we only had this idea, if you are only really awake to the fact that nobody can escape suffering in the world, we would be very eager to search for something beyond. We continuously keep on denying this fact. So first is face this fact. Face the fact that there is very little real happiness in the world. If we just search in our hearts, we will feel that most of our life is spent in hoping for happiness, hoping that tomorrow will be a better tomorrow. But the problem is, in the world, happiness and suffering go hand in hand. So if we are searching for a tomorrow where we can get unmixed happiness, it is absolutely silly. It goes against all logic, against all experience. So first we have to face this, that what we are doing has been done by millions and billions maybe since the beginning of time. If all our endeavors are just to make us happy in the world, all our endeavors are just to ensure that we can get happiness without suffering, it is absolutely foolish. All our experiences tell us. So once we are convinced of this fact, when we accept that misery is an inevitable part of worldly life, then we really feel this bondage. That's what's happening. What are we doing? Same thing in every life. We are born, we search for something we cannot get, we die. Swami Vivekananda says, crippled and cheated, we die. We become cripples. Old age and disease makes us cripples. All whom we know, slowly, one by one, they pass away. And one day we leave the world. And again come back, searching for the same thing. So in order to end this search, which has no end, because why it has no end? Because we are searching for something which is not there in the world, unmixed happiness. Once we understand this, then we actually face the truth. And only after that our struggle for freedom starts. But if we don't face this, if we try to hide and we think that somehow or the other we will escape, deny the fact, then Swami Vivekananda says that we are actually covering a corpse with roses. There is a corpse, a dead body. The dead body will go on decomposing, will go on rotting. But we don't want to accept it. We keep on covering it with flowers so that that smell is hidden. But it won't help, because one day that smell will overpower all the scents of flowers which we may put over that. So this is what is, first of all, facing misery means accepting the fact of misery, that we cannot get rid of evil in this world because evil and good are not separate. So what we are doing now, patching things up. Patching means, suppose our clothes gets torn at one place, we put some patch. Then it gets torn in other place, we put another patch. So life also, our life is also patchwork. We don't feel good today, we try to find happiness in the world. Then again tomorrow we face the same thing, again we try to discover some worldly means of removing suffering, but nobody has ever succeeded in that. So this patchwork has to end. Swamiji says that those who are satisfied with this kind of patchwork will never come to religion. That's why he says, I quote him verbatim now, quote, the senses drag the human soul out. Man is seeking for pleasure and for happiness where it can never be found. Where? In the world. In the world, it can never be found. Unmixed happiness. For countless ages, we are all taught that this is all futile and vain. There is no happiness here, but we cannot learn. We try and a blow comes. Do we learn then? No, not even then. Like moths hurling themselves against the flame, we are hurling ourselves again and again into sense pleasures, hoping to find satisfaction there. We return again and again with freshened energy. Thus we go on till crippled and cheated, we die. Unquote. This is what Swami Vivekananda says. That we try and a blow comes. We try to find happiness in so-called love. We get attached to some person and that person maybe suddenly passes away. A huge blow comes. But still we don't learn. We get attached to some other person, some other thing. This is how we generally spend our lives. And in the end, broken in mind and body, frustrated, we die. Why? Because we didn't apply our common sense, didn't learn from the experience of others, and went on searching for happiness without misery, which is never possible in this world. So generally, when we are faced with suffering, ordinary man says, again I quote Swami Vivekananda, quote, he says, it may be true, but don't think of it. Make hay while the sun shines, as the proverb goes. It is all true. It is a fact, this fact of misery, but do not mind it. Seize the few pleasures you can. Do what little you can. Do not look at the dark side of the picture, but always towards the hopeful, the positive side. Take the world as it is. Sit down as calmly and comfortably as you can and be contented with all these miseries. When you receive blows, say that they are not blows, but flowers. And when you are driven about like slaves, say that you are free. Day and night tell lies to others and to your own souls because that is the only way to live happily. This is unquote. This is what Swami Vivekananda says. So those who are doing this, those who are just seizing a few pleasures, very insignificant pleasures, and thinking that they will happy, those who are sitting down and are content with all this suffering, when they receive blows, they tell lies to themselves. And when they are satisfied with this kind of compromising, they will spend life after life, but they will never come to religion. So first you have to face this fact. And this is one part, face the fact of misery. And then facing misery also means another thing, that when by God's grace we realize this fact that someone is speaking and there is some sound here. Please mute everybody. Yeah. So this is the first thing. And when we recognize this fact, when we realize that what we are searching, perfect freedom and freedom from suffering, when we realize that they cannot be had in this world which is full of dualities, then what happens? Then our real struggle starts. Then we try to withdraw our mind from all kinds of worldly pleasures, and giving up all this, try to focus only on the one reality which is beyond the world and beyond law, which is perfect freedom and existence and knowledge and bliss, which is God. So when we give up this attachment, try to give up the attachment to the world and try to focus all our attention on God, then the real struggle starts. And this struggle also entails a lot of misery. Why? Because we are fighting against our old habits. Life after life, we have been doing this, searching for happiness, searching for pleasure in this world, searching for happiness in husbands, wife, children, friends, relatives, and enjoyments. So now, when we try to give up those because of our past habits, naturally, it becomes very difficult. So a continuous struggle starts, and struggle is another name for suffering, for misery. So facing misery also means that face this struggle bravely. Don't give up. Although it is very difficult, the path is difficult, but don't give up, because giving up means returning to our old ways, again becoming disappointed, again facing the same cycle. So although it is difficult, although there is suffering even in the struggle for true religion, but it won't do if we become afraid and give up the struggle. So these two meanings are there in facing misery. And only those who can face this, who are brave enough to do this, can really aspire after true religion, can really aspire after God. This is what Swami Vivekananda says. So the thing is that wherever there is life, there is this search for freedom. Life is another name for this search for freedom. And that freedom is the same as God. Attaining that freedom is the only goal of life. that can only give us complete self-fulfillment and take us beyond all kinds of suffering forever and ever. That is why Sri Ramakrishna says that realizing God is the only aim of life. This is the meaning behind Sri Ramakrishna's words. So it is often said that Sri Ramakrishna had just given the teachings in very concise form and Swami Vivekananda has given a commentary over that. So what we are discussing today can be said to be a commentary over this short statement of Sri Ramakrishna that God realization is the only aim of life. Why? Because only by realizing God, we can attain complete freedom and go beyond all pain and suffering forever. And that is the goal of all human beings without any kind of exception. So this freedom, when attained, it gives us mastery over all nature. And this freedom is impossible to attain without knowledge. Knowledge gives us freedom because what kills ignorance? Ignorance is killed only by knowledge. We are ignorant. We don't know our real nature. We think we are this body and mind. When the body suffers, we suffer. When the mind is not in a good state, we also feel sad. All this is happening because we are ignorant. And this ignorance can be removed only with knowledge. At every level, ignorance can only be removed by knowledge, nothing else. So even in the lower stage, knowledge removes our ignorance and thereby removes our suffering. How? Even in the lower stage, we can easily understand that. Suppose now it is freezing outside. In the morning, it is -5, -6 currently here. So if we are forced to remain outside for a few days, we will probably become very sick or maybe even freeze to death or something when it becomes colder. So what did man do? Human beings. What did he do? He said, this won't do. I cannot let nature kill me. So maybe in ancient times, what did man do? He made a sort of, wall. Maybe he cut some trees. With that wood, he made some sort of wall, some sort of shelter, so that at least he could, that wind, etc., may have been kept out. So he survived that way. Then when he knew nature better, he learned the secrets of nature. He saw that even much better than wood, there are many materials. Then he discovered this, what we now call concrete and all. So what is this? How did this concrete, the concept of concrete, how did it come? Because man learned the secrets of nature. That knowledge removed his ignorance. He learned how to make this concrete, then how to make metal bars, how to make reinforced concrete, how to provide better shelter for himself. And now we have this comfortable, we are comfortable because we have all this internal heating and all. So what is this? What are all these comforts? These comforts are actually our knowledge of nature. Our knowledge of nature is expanding. And as the knowledge is expanding, we are using nature, we are gaining power over nature to make our lives more comfortable. So the more we are knowing, the more we are becoming masters of nature. Nature tells us, go outside and freeze to death. But we say, no, I will master you. I will use nature itself to become free from nature. So we are using all these wooden wooden walls, lights, fans, etc., to become free from the slavery of nature. So this mastery alone is making us strong. This knowledge alone is making us strong. So where does it lead? That if knowledge makes us masters of nature, then if we become all-knowing, if we become omniscient, then we can become complete masters of nature. It follows logically. So regarding this, Swami Vivekananda says, I quote him again, if there be some being entirely free and master of nature, that being must have a perfect knowledge of nature, must be omnipresent and omniscient. Freedom must go hand in hand with these, and that being alone who has acquired these, acquired what? Acquired omnipresence and omniscient, perfect knowledge, who has acquired these will be beyond nature. So God is supposed to be omnipresent and omniscient. That God is in our heart. If we realize him, realize means what? Realize means transforming our nature completely. Going from the human level to the divine level. When we succeed in doing that, then we also, like God, can go beyond nature and be gain complete freedom. So this is what religion is all about. And what is the highest concept of religion? Swami Vivekananda says, where does this all lead to? These are steps. We are traveling from one step to another. Slowly, we are gaining knowledge. We are getting rid of our ignorance. So where does it all lead to? Where does it all culminate? Which is the highest concept? So stating that, Swami Vivekananda says, blessedness, eternal peace arising from perfect freedom is the highest concept of religion, underlying all the ideas of God which we have. This we should understand. We go to temples, offer flowers, offer food. There is some photograph, there is some idol. So what are we doing actually? To whom are we offering all these things? We are offering all these things to one who signifies blessedness, perfect freedom, and eternal peace. Peace which is beyond every kind of suffering. So what is God? The religion which is aimed at realizing God, God is absolutely free existence, not bound by anything, no change in him, no nature. Nothing can produce a change in God. A change is produced when? When does a thing change? Have you ever thought about this? What can produce a change in something? A change can be produced in something only by an influence which is more powerful than that thing. We can just try to understand this. Now, suppose my body is in a particular state. Inside, I'm comfortable. There's a temperature maintained. Now I go outside. The weather is freezing. So there are some changes produced in the body. The body becomes cold. Why? Because the forces outside are more powerful than the resistance of my body. Only more powerful forces can produce a change in something. So, if there is to be any change in God, we have to admit that there is something more powerful which is influencing God. There is something more powerful than God, but there is nothing more powerful. So, God is someone who can never change. Nothing can affect God at all. It is free from every kind of influence. And this God, this perfect freedom is in you, in me, in every living being in the world, and it is the only real freedom. Change of any kind indicates that we are susceptible to external influence. This we can just daily examples if you see. In our world, what do we see? If we have so much experience of interacting with human beings of different kinds, we always see that if a person is very fickle, very restless, he is actually much more bound. He actually suffers much more. Most of the people, what do we see in the world? That just a little pleasure or a little misery shakes them, makes them lose their balance. If they gain maybe some $100 today, they become very happy. They start dancing. Another day, when they lose $150, say, they become full of sorrow. So even a little pain or a little suffering shakes them, because they are so weak that they are susceptible to all kinds of external influences. So if we find ourselves always changing, one moment sorrow, one moment suffering, etc., then we should know that we are completely the slaves of nature. All the great souls that we see, if we read their lives in detail, we discover a great calmness about them. They were calm, always calm. Calm in the midst of great sorrow and suffering also, because they had made themselves so strong that they could resist external influences. So that is the way out. And we can resist external influences only when we gain a higher ground, when we go to an upper level. Upper level means we come closer to that perfect freedom, which is God. So weak persons, when nature interacts with them, they become susceptible to each and every wind that blows. They become complete slaves of nature, and this is a sign of bondage. Our goal is to remain absolutely unaffected by the changes in nature, the changes in our mind and body. That can only be done when we gain a higher reality. Like, for example, I'll give you an example. Of course, this is an example of a very great saint. We can never really hope to attain that state in a day. But how a person who has realized God, even in the midst of terrible suffering, he remains the same. I will just give you a very small example. Many examples are there. Once Swami Turiyananda, Sri Ramakrishna's disciple, he was a very great soul. So he was retired. He was living in Varanasi, Kashi. So his body had become absolutely shattered. He had performed austerities all his life. So there were some attendants who used to care for him, do his work and etc., serve him. So one of the jobs was to give in Turiyanandaji's eyes that rose water. Rose water used to be given in his eyes by some dropper or something. So one day what happened, the attendant by mistake, instead of that rose water, he gave nitric acid in Turiyanandaji's eyes. Nitric acid. Immediately there was a terrible burning sensation. So what would a normal person like us, what would we have done? We would have shouted, screamed, God knows what we would have done. But Turiyanandaji, what did he do? He was absolutely calm even in that state. He calmly said to the attendant, you have not given rose water. Check what you have given. Just imagine being calm in that state when nitric acid is given in your eyes. Immediately the attendant found that he had done a terrible mistake. He washed his eyes and all, the Swami's eyes. Fortunately, the eye was saved. There was no harm done. But the thing to learn is, see the calmness. In that terrible suffering, when the eyes are burning, he may lose that eye. Turiyanandaji was absolutely calm. Many other examples can be given from the lives of the disciples of Sri Ramakrishna. But naturally, we cannot go into detail. So this is what happens when a man attains what is permanent, what is perfectly free, which is beyond all changes. Then he knows that this world cannot influence him. He knows that he is separate from the mind and body. His nature is that perfect freedom which is divine. So this is the goal. For this, Swami Vivekananda says that we have to go beyond nature. Beyond nature means what? Beyond nature does not mean take a spacecraft and go to Jupiter and Mars and all that. No, that is not the meaning, because that is also within nature. Anywhere where our minds can go, we can think, it is all within nature. You can't escape nature by going out of the earth or the solar system or the Milky Way. It is all nature. So, because this nature is inside, not outside, it is in the mind. So, going beyond nature means climbing to the super conscious, super sensuous state, going beyond the senses. Because that freedom is beyond all reasoning, beyond the mind, and not on the plane of the intellect at all. This is the final goal. Then we can really attain that peace and blessedness. That is the thing. So first, we have to realize that we are in this terrible bondage. Only when we realize that, we feel it in our heart of hearts, then we hear this divine call that God is calling us for something higher. So again, I quote Swami Vivekananda, who explains this in his inimitable way. I quote, with this terrible fact before us, in the midst of sorrow and suffering, even in this world where life and death are synonymous, there is still a small voice that is ringing through the ages, in every country, in every heart. What is that voice? He quotes Shri Krishna in the Gita. This my Maya, Maya means your nature, this my Maya is divine, made up of qualities and very difficult to cross. Yet those that come unto me, here God is saying, So come unto God means what? Take refuge in God. So those who take refuge in God cross this Maya, cross this river of life. Then he also quotes Jesus Christ. Same thing Jesus Christ says, come unto me all that labor and are heavily laden, and I will give you rest. Heavily laden means what? Not that somebody has put 10 kgs of weight on our shoulders. Heavily laden means heavily laden with the burden of this world, with the suffering of this world. Now we don't feel it because we are dreaming some golden dreams. We think that everything will be okay one fine day. That day will never come. As long as we are attached to the world, that day will never come. When we realize that, then we feel that this is a great bondage. It is a great burden on our mind. And then we start our struggle to get rid of that. So, then I again quote Swami Vivekananda, this is the voice, this voice of God. This is the voice that is leading us forward. Man has heard it and is hearing it all through the ages. When man's dependence on his own strength has been crushed and everything seems to melt away between his fingers, then he hears it. This is called religion. This is called religion, Swami Vivekananda says. This is what is religion. When we hear that call from God, really hear it. When our religion goes beyond just offering some flowers and fruits to God, when we really strive, when we really realize that this world is nothing but sorrow and suffering, then a real religion starts with God. That is called inner awakening. What is the source of that inner awakening? It begins with the tremendous dissatisfaction with the present state of things, Swami Vivekananda says. Now we are happy eating, sleeping, drinking, so many friends, this, that. We don't realize the pitiable condition we are in. We are not really dissatisfied with the world. We are okay, no problem. Enjoying this, enjoying that. But when we realize that all these only increase our suffering, only delay our attaining perfect freedom, then there arises a tremendous dissatisfaction in our heart. Then what do we say? Swami Vivekananda says, then we say this religion, then when does it come to us? So when can a person be truly religious? So Swami Vivekananda says, I quote, he alone can be truly religious who dares say, as the mighty Buddha once said under the bo tree, death is better than a vegetating, ignorant life. It is better to die on the battlefield than to live a life of defeat. This is the basis of religion. When a man takes this stand, he is on the way to find the truth. He is on the way to God. That determination must be the first impulse towards becoming religious. This is the thing. Rather die than remain a slave to nature all our life. That is the thing. There is one woman in Indian history. So when Swamiji used to mention her name, he used to weep. Weep out of emotion, weep out of reverence. Who is that lady? That lady is the Rani of Jhansi. Those who have read Indian history know. So what happened? Britishers, when they offered, Britishers took over each kingdom. So all the rulers were just puppets. They were just under the Britishers. So Britishers offered the same thing to the Rani of Jhansi. They said, we will be the rulers, you just be the puppet. Sit there on the throne, we will rule you. We will rule the whole kingdom. Then what did Rani of Jhansi say? Rani of Jhansi said, I will never give up my Jhansi. Means I will never give up my freedom. So when we take this stand that we will not be slaves to the world, we will struggle and realize our divine nature, which is beyond all kind of suffering. When we are determined to do this, then our religious life starts. That is the thing. But for this, we have to struggle hard, because we have to give up this bondage of nature. And giving up bondage of nature means giving up all that attracts us to nature, giving up all that we think will give us pleasure, giving up all sorts of enjoyments, so-called enjoyments, which nature offers. That is called renunciation. And Swami Vivekananda says that no one can be religious who doesn't practice this kind of renunciation. Because if we keep on holding to nature, if we keep on holding to what is bound, we cannot be free ever. So Swami Vivekananda says, I again quote, and another definition of religion he gives, quote, the greatest purifier, a purifier without which no one can enter the regions of higher devotion, is renunciation. This frightens many, yet without it, there cannot be any spiritual growth. This is the stepping stone and the real center and the real heart of all spiritual culture, renunciation. This is religion, renunciation, unquote. This is religion. So this should make us think that maybe year after year, 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, what is our religion? Going to some maybe temple, maybe some shrine, and singing a few hymns and offering some flower and something, etc. God, give me a higher income, give me a better job, give me a son, give me a daughter. When the son is there, give my son a better job, give him a bride. So when we are continuously doing this year after year, we should deeply reflect. Is this religion? Is this what we really want? Is this what we can really get ever? This can hardly be called religion. Swami Vivekananda himself says. Religion is when we become fed up of all these things. When we become fed up of all this eternal searching and never finding. Searching for happiness and never finding. When we become fed up of all this sorrow and suffering. When we want to become free forever and ever and ever. And we are ready to sacrifice everything we have for this freedom. When we really take this determined step, that will be the first step, mind you, towards becoming religious. So, this is what Swami Vivekananda means by religion. Many other things can be said, but already these ideas may be disturbing to some, so I don't want to disturb you further. Otherwise, you'll stop coming to Vedanta Society. So, we should deeply reflect on this and try to understand this, and whatever we can do, whatever little we can do, and mold our lives accordingly. Whatever little we can do will never be lost. In the world, everything comes and goes, nothing remains. But if we strive in this direction, whatever we gain will be there with us, not in this birth, but also in future births. Nothing will be lost, no effort will be lost. So slowly, striving. If we don't give up the struggle, we will attain one day that perfect freedom, which is our real nature. Which is our real nature. We are not striving for something which is beyond us. That is within us, in our hearts. God or perfect freedom. And striving to attain that perfect freedom and giving up the things which stand in the way is the real meaning of the term religion. So let us end today. If anybody has anything to say after that, we can discuss. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu.
Ram Maharaj.
Yeah, so anybody wants to say something, please. Sanjay ji.
Yeah, it was an excellent discourse. One thing in my mind, is it possible to elaborate the renunciation to the God? How one can do that, and what are the steps to do that?
Yeah, that is a big topic. So it cannot be dealt with just in a few words. So slowly, as we keep on discussing these things, this renunciation will also feature in our talks. So you will have an idea. In very few words, Sri Ramakrishna described the essence that renunciation is what? He says that God is the only truth. In Bengali, he says, Ishwar hi vastu, and everything else is avastu. Avastu means that which does not remain, which is just there for a few moments. So giving up what does not remain and catching hold of that which is eternal, that is the basis of religion. So give up what is there only for a few moments. Coming now, going tomorrow. Give that up and hold on to that which will never go away, which is God. That is the essence of renunciation. But many other things can be discussed. So slowly we can see what to do.
Yeah, I mean, this is almost the life of Lord Ramakrishna himself, is it not?
Every saint, not only Ramakrishna. If there is no renunciation anywhere, and if somebody is preaching religion, just remain away. Just don't go near that person.
That's right.
Yeah. So if there is nothing more, then I will hand over to our president of the society, Mr. Anirvanda, and we can end the meeting.
I just want to say to everybody who are present today, our pranam to Swami Vimohananda ji. He will be leaving tomorrow, but we are glad to let you know that we are continuously requesting him to be back in December to continue these spiritual teachings that he has been conducting here. And thank you to all of you for being able to join the meeting today. Depending on your requests, Swamiji will be back in December and will continue these meetings and spiritual teachings to us. Pranam to everyone.